well, this is Aaron Squire coming to you guys again. We've got episode 77 coming at you, and I'm calling it Errata-Nerf-Ban, and then I'm going to probably add on Dinotropia on there. And it's his first time on the show, so we got a great show coming at you tonight. Of course, we got Dinotropia just, here to talk about things. We got the news with Titania's Majesty getting some, some hurt feelings this week. The 5 Shards tournament, and then we're going to do some sort of a deck doctor, which I haven't really decided on. But let's talk to Dinotropia first. Welcome to the show. Good to have you on. Talk to me about the kind of content you're doing for Hex. What kind of stuff do you do? And
oh, hey, Aaron Squire. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so Dinotropia here, Dino, I typically go by. I stream fairly regularly, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on Twitch at Dinotropia. I also do content on YouTube occasionally. I don't have too much there now that isn't directly related to the stream, just kind of stuff that's happened on the stream that I thought was relevant.
Right.
But slowly starting to work on creating some drafting guides.
Do a lot of drafting.
We'll see how fast that goes up. Turns out for every YouTube video you make, I do animations and all sorts of things. It's actually a billion hours of man work behind the scenes for a small little 5.
It can be, yeah. Like a lot of my stuff is canned these days, but yeah, getting the initial thing, yeah, the intro and stuff, yeah, it took me a weekend to build that Aaron Squire intro where it's just like 8 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
An entire weekend for 8 seconds of work. Yeah.
So I completely got you there.
My biggest content, and the reason why you guys should come and check me out, is the 4 Keeps competition, which I invented and run, which is I like to call it constructed with attitude. Every time I stream, I do a gauntlet of 3 decks. If you can take 1 deck of your own and defeat all 3 of these decks, you win prizes. And I have cool little conditions and challenges that I attach to this, which can get you even more prizes and stuff like that. So
that's pretty awesome. I like that. So you're just basically kind of building in that PvE content we're going to see later, but you're doing it live with your own decks and stuff, and that's pretty sweet. That's pretty awesome. So how'd you find Hex? Like, what turned you on to Hex?
I am a Kickstarter addict. I believe that Kickstarter is one of the most significant publishing changes that we've seen. Just as we've seen the internet come in and really replace certain kinds of print media within our lifetimes, we've seen this happen. I feel like Kickstarter is making a dent towards more niche products, more
possibly things that could get very, very mainstream, though. But yeah, there's been a lot of things with Kickstarter that I'll kickstart and then completely forget about. Where it's like maybe later I'll get the game. Usually it's a lot of games, and I'll get the game and I'll just do some content for it, and that's mostly why. And I'm usually kickstarting things I think are going to be good, and I like the developers and that sort of thing. But like if I never play the game, it's not a big deal to me. Yeah.
No, I mean, so for my own personal philosophy, I try to back things that I believe in and want to see, just as a whole philosophy. You're not necessarily paying for a finished game. You're saying, I would love for this thing to exist in the world.
Yeah, I'd love to actually play this at some point in time. Yeah, sure.
So that's how I originally found Hex. Spent a lot of time on there, and it was a fairly big and explosive project at the time.
Right. So talk to me about your card playing background, or that sort of thing.
I pretty much. So I started out with Magic: The Gathering.
Okay, as many of us have.
When I was fairly young, and I never played it competitively. It was the quintessential tabletop game with my brother. Like I played with my brother and one other friend from high school.
Right.
And I would just build decks and play around with cards on my bedroom floor. Like that was the game that I played. Fast forward to college, and I didn't really have anybody that I knew that played the game very much, and I was fairly busy. I was a double major.
Oh yeah, wow.
So a lot of time spent in academic pursuits. Didn't touch another TCG until Hex, and it was the game I always wanted but never knew that it could
exist.
Exactly.
So you never like tried some of the other ones that are out there, some of the Hearthstones of that?
I mean, I dabble. I played a little bit of Hearthstone. I played Soulforged. You know, I continually come back to the model because it's a model I enjoy very much.
Right.
But they're expensive to really dive into unless you have a drafting system that you're very good at. And in general, there hasn't been one that's really gripped me in the same way.
Yeah.
Hex has done that for me. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because like I saw Card Hunter had actually gone to its like year 2. They actually emailed me. They were like, "We're in year 2." They're pretty excited about it. That's more of like a Dungeons and Dragons like miniatures game with cards, and it was pretty fun for a little while to play. But
I saw it came out on iOS recently.
Oh yeah, wow, yeah. So lots of options out there. Hex, of course, is our drug of choice, so that's a good thing, seeing as you're on the show. So yeah, go out there and check out your content. If you didn't catch it at the beginning, make sure to look down below at the YouTube content comments, or actually basically like the comments section or whatever, where I will highlight how to get to his Twitch feed, which I believe is just /Dinotropia, basically twitch.tv/Dinotropia, right?
Yep.
And we'll also highlight him at the end of the program. But let's move over to some of these news items. Just by the way, also the YouTube thing is still going on. So if you post on this video and give your YouTube or give me your in-game name, then next week on next week's show, actually it'll be 2 weeks, but then I'm giving away convocation packs, which I'll be giving away tonight as well. So I try to do them for both my YouTube people and then my live people too. So I don't try to just cater to one audience. So let's go ahead and move over to the show screen though. We've got Norris is showing up. Hey, what's going on? Sweet Minnie's background. Yeah, these are some of my Warhammer models, and unfortunately Warhammer Fantasy is not what it used to be. It's changed to something I'm not completely on board with, and so I've actually started doing some more Cool Mini or Not stuff with this Relic Knights stuff. So hopefully pretty soon I'll have some of these awesome models that I'll set up and take some pictures of and do some backgrounds.
You're a big miniature player?
I think I'm a miniatures addict of collector more than I am like a player. It feels like, because like that's what I tell people all the time. It's kind of like a sidetrack to playing Hex, but like with miniatures, everyone's always like, "Oh man, I'd love to go and play some miniatures." And my first question to them is, "Do you like to model and paint models and do that sort of thing? Because if you don't, this is probably not the hobby for you, because that's at least half. I'd say more like 80% of the hobby is modeling. If you don't enjoy doing that, then yeah, it may not be something for you." And there's plenty of people that just put together their armies and then just do minimalist stuff, and then they go and play a lot of tournaments and stuff too. Not discounting them, but yeah, if you are someone that's gonna, especially someone that's gonna eBay buy an army that someone's painted, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're really missing out on a lot of the hobby if you do that.
Did you back or hear of Monster Kingdom Death?
No, I did not.
Oh,
is it gone now?
Well, gone. It was a Kickstarter. It's been in the works for 2-3-ish years. We're beginning to get things shipped, and if you haven't taken a look at this, oh my goodness, I need to hook you up. They have pre-orders open. It has some of the most beautiful and weird and crazy miniatures that I've seen in a long time. So we can dish.
Maybe a little bit later, maybe on stream later or something if we get on later this weekend. But anyways, this week the big news is Titania's Majesty is gone, the very first card in Hex history to be banned. And by the way, we're still in beta, guys, just so we're aware of that. But we've talked at length about how Cryptozoic, which is now Hex LLC, has had a very good track record of not banning cards. So what would make them ban this card? And basically Dan Clark goes through a bunch of different things, and when it is that you're developing games, you want people to have emotional reactions, you want them to feel good about certain things, and even for people playing Titania's Majesty, it wasn't necessarily a good feeling. because I myself had one game where like I didn't hit anything reasonably good, and I played like 2 Titania's Majesties. So I played it first, which means typically that you win when you're in the mirror match, and my opponent played it in the following turn and he hit his card, and so that didn't feel good for me. Of course, that can happen with any card like this, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those cards that like even when you're playing it, sometimes it doesn't feel good to play. So I think this was a good decision. It's going to let other decks get out there and breathe and be able to do things. I would love to see a mono diamond weenie-ish deck that uses those horses, the 5/5 horses that are indestructible for like, what is it, 4? I'd love to see something like that actually work. I'm not holding my breath on that one, but there's going to be a lot more decks that we can actually build, and as a deck builder, you know, namesake of the show, I'm really excited about it. So yeah, what do you think, Dino?
Well, first off, I think it's really funny that you say that, because our first keep deck is actually exactly what you're describing. It's a weenie white deck that also has horses, but specifically about Titania's Majesty, I think it was a very healthy thing for the game. I've posted a couple times on the forums about this. Some people have argued about the card in terms of, oh, it's too powerful, get rid of it. I'm not necessarily in that camp. I don't think we've had long enough to prove that the card itself is broken. I think there may exist counters out there. I think there may exist decks with a decent matchup against it. The biggest thing for me, and I'm really glad to see this being addressed in the public announcement as to why they're removing the card in the first place, is that non-interactive play. I don't know if you're familiar with League of Legends.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
People are. It's pretty huge.
I played before there was like levels to League of Legends, where it was like here's the cup, you know, like the diamond and the sapphire and the whatever, you know. Nice. I played back and way back, you know.
Yeah, I was one of the first 500 beta testers for the game, so I've been in there for a long time.
A little while, and, just a minute. I said just a minute. You've been in there for a minute.
Yes, yeah. Just a minute.
Just a minute. Minute or two.
Yes. But some people come down as to liking the game, not liking the game, whatever. That aside, I think they have a very good presentation of their design goals and strategies that's easily accessible for a player base. If you follow the forums, if you look and follow the Reds, you can get a really clear sense of what they think is good in a multiplayer game. And one of those is the idea of counterplay, of reactivity, of interactivity.
Right.
And I feel like Titania's Majesty really stripped that out of our TCG, out of the game. Yeah. Whether or not you're playing against it or with it, there's not a lot of actions. Actions exist on the board. If you don't have a board, if you don't have something that you can answer, the only thing you're left, you know, interacting with is the hand, which forces people into either hand destruction or countering, which is just really, well,
annoying.
Boring. Yeah. It's good for counters to exist in the game. It's good for some hand destruction to exist in the game in limited quantities, because it keeps you on your toes. And it forces you to really think about your plays and react to the resources that your opponent keeps open or not. That's healthy. But too many of them, too much, and people having decks that are essentially 90% counterspell and or hand destruction simply to deal with something like Titania's Majesty means nobody's having fun.
Yeah. I'd say like one of the worst play experiences is like Titania's Majesty into Walking Calamity. It's the average, and then Ozawa just feels even worse for me as a deck builder. I'm just like, that shouldn't, no, don't put that in that deck. No, you didn't even play any diamond shards in this deck. That means it's going to be a dead card in your hand, and I want things to work, and I want things to run correctly, and no, I understand you're basically going all in, and it's like, well, sometimes you're going to have really bad hands, and you know, it just gives you 8 chances at drawing something crazy and playing it on your opponent and winning the game. But at the same time, I really hated that. I hated Ozawa in that deck. I understand that it's not bad, but at the same time, that was one of the worst things for me as a deck builder.
Yeah, they're more efficient options. I think a lot of the tournament winners from this past
they actually took their calamities down quite a bit. Like a lot of 2 ofs, 3 ofs. I saw a 1 of.
I think some of that might be expense, but a lot of it, if you ask me, is about tuning your playstyle. Essentially, and this is why I think ramp, particularly wild and ruby ramp, is still going to be a thing in the tournament scene. You take down these crazy instant win cards slightly, because yes, it's awesome when you get it for free, but you don't need it if you're ramping up into something that's going to win you the game in a couple of turns anyway.
Yeah, Crocosaur is still really good. Arborean Rootfather still like the card to have for this deck. So like if anything, like Calamity is probably going to lose a lot of value, and Rootfather, if you had stocked some Rootfathers, like you just wait for the right time. Like maybe even tonight would be a good night with the tournament coming up tomorrow to sell them. Yeah, those Rootfathers are going to be worth a pretty penny for people that don't have them, that are trying to build this deck anyways. Plus,
lost like 400 or 500 platinum.
Plus, what's the other card that people are playing in here? Eye of Creation, and people are going to play 3 to 4 Eye of Creation now in this deck and still try to make it work, and it still works. I mean, I still like playing elves with Eye of Creation. That was my original deck, was only 2 Titanias and then 4 Eye of Creation, so that way I could flood the board with elves and then once in a while hit like a Calamity or something. You know, I still enjoy that. But yeah, I mean, we're looking over the top 16, the top 32 decks from the major tournament last weekend, the stress test tournament, which was a huge success because we had like 700 people in there. I thought it was 9 rounds. It ended up being 10 rounds. I've got all this footage that I just posted to YouTube that I'm going to start slowly releasing as this week plays out. But most of them were the Titanias, which we're not going to really talk about. We're going to concentrate on some of the other decks. So let's see. Let's find one. I know it's hard sometimes. Let's see. There's Crested, Cranox. So here's your typical Blood X deck. This is one of the few decks that has a really good game against it. And again, you know, it's just hand disruption, just like you said. So I don't know if you have very much else to say. Subtle Striker was another interesting one that I had played against me. I was like, yeah, I guess it stops Cressida from doing her thing, but like a lot of times I have 5 resources anyway, so Subtle Striker just didn't seem to be good enough, you know, to me.
In Blood Control, I actually think the biggest innovation was not so much the Subtle Striker, but the Exarch of the Egg. I think that was brilliant for a number of reasons. One, the lethal means, you know, particularly such a cheap lethal, means that even if you get something crazy out on the board right away, as long as it doesn't one-hit KO you, you do have a pretty big chance. And it can't be Crocosaur very easily without losing the Crocosaur, so that's a big plus. Second thing, the eggs, when you introduce eggs, it actually weakens Titanias. The more eggs you have in an opponent's deck, the harder it is for them to grab their big stompies and kill you. So I actually really, really like the addition of Exarch.
Yeah, I like it as well. Plus, it kills what's it called? It kills the dino, the Crocosaur. Did you already say that?
Yep, Crocosaur. It stomps down, goes, "Oh man, I ate something poisonous." Crunk.
Yeah. Crested, Ergonog. Now, this is one that I actually played against the arena quite a bit, and I really enjoy playing this deck, actually. I was a little bit skeptical about it because, you know, it runs such a low curve. It basically tops out at 2 on the curve, and it's just enjoyable to play. This is an extremely enjoyable deck to play, and the only thing is a problem is if your opponent can somehow turn 3 Crocosaur, 2 of your dudes, yeah, you pretty much lose, I think. I haven't played it a lot in like the constructed queues, but it's been very enjoyable to play basically like the Tusker deck. Have you had any experience with this one?
I have some experience, not so much in the PvP arena, but mostly PvE. It's a variant. I mean, that exact deck, more or less, is run quite often in arena. It's one of the faster farming decks out there, and I believe many people were turning to it just to outrun a Cresta deck. If you got the coin flip, you had a pretty decent chance of beating them out game 1, in which case game 2 and 3 you could hopefully swing one of them. I mean, the danger and the strength of a Crested deck was that the sideboarding options were so robust. You could put in insane anti-aggro, and it would still work like a charm. Yeah, yeah.
You had your Heat Wave, and you have your what's it called? The Carnosaurus. It's
And
like
Cluckadon, actually, I think, was also very strong.
Cluckadon also does really well against this deck, but Carnosaurus is, yeah, like that's why I main decked him. I was like, well, I'm worried about aggro a little bit, so, and then plus I wanted Carnosaurus to kill their Periwinkle because I saw Periwinkle as a huge threat in the Crested deck.
That's a fair point.
Let's see, Crested. It's like so hard to find them with it where they don't have it. Here's another Cranach deck. This one was kind of interesting. We were talking about it before the program, and so like I said, why is he running 3 Her Majesty Queen Grace when he's only got like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 targets for her as far as humans are concerned, and he's got a bunch of vampires, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And then Dino like came out of nowhere, and he's like, oh, well, Aaron Squire, you're just being silly about this, so tell him what you told me.
All right. This is something we've actually been playing with for keeps for quite some time, actually, and it's nice to see this coming into the mainstream now that we have more royalty in other races. Her Majesty Queen Grace, the secondary ability is almost more powerful than the first one. Target prince, princess, or king, I believe. Yeah, king,
yeah,
prince,
king,
or princess.
princess.
Get invincibility for a turn, and that applies to all royalty, not just human royalty. So if you have a vampire princess or a vampire king, they become invincible. You can save them from an extinction. You can use them to block a rampaging walking calamity, take no damage, and gain a little bit of life. It's incredibly, incredibly useful. And so that addition is interesting. Also, if you expect to see a lot of Tusker Rush, a 1/3 for 2, not a bad drop down in the beginning. You can save yourself quite a bit of pain just by having one of those early blockers.
Yeah, this might actually become a mainstay in the Blood Diamond control deck. You know, people did ask me, like I had one person that I stopped in on the thing and said, like the show, which I always appreciate, by the way, when you guys do tell me you actually watch the show. But he asked me, like, what's the meta's going to do? And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that are still going to be out there. Like, the ramp is not going to go away. It's not. There's plenty of other options. It's still pretty good. But the thing is, the format's going to have more room to breathe. So, you know, as far as, like, what's going to be dominant, I think ramp's still going to have a lot of market share tomorrow. So it's going to make top 8. Like, there'll be probably 3 or 4 decks that'll be top 8 just because people still want to play it. As far as like what's going to be probably the best thing to have out there, like Blood X is probably still going to make a top 8 tomorrow, and you know, we may see a Mono Sapphire or a Sapphire X control, and then I'd love to see the what's it called, the Wolves, what are we calling it, Wolves deck. And then here's an actually the aggro, the what do you call it, the Dwarf aggro, Ruby Sapphire Dwarf aggro is still pretty strong.
Call time.
Yeah, I mean it's still pretty strong. So that's another one. Like Rocket Ranger, awesome card in this deck. I mean, does 4 damage. He do 8 damage if you have enough artifacts. That's pretty ridiculous. What's the other one? Winter Moon. This Winter Moon deck. This is the one that I think I'd like to see in the top 8. I'd like to see something running some of these wolves. I'd actually like to see a Sirion deck in the top 8, because I actually feel like Augur of Sirion is more powerful than Windsinger Master of the Hunt, because Augur of Sirion is just like, yep, you just keep looking at the top card of your deck, and as long as you've got resources, you can just keep casting stuff, and it gets ridiculous.
I would argue that Augur of Sirion and Windsinger do different things. I wouldn't call one more powerful than the other. You're absolutely correct that Augur of Sirion is very powerful in terms of combo potential. I've been playing around with decks that allow you to essentially play your entire deck as long as you have an Augur on the board, because you can just keep playing resources off the top, and you can keep playing your troops. And if you make things either cost nothing or you have a ton of resources, you can essentially play your entire deck. It's a ton of fun. The issue is that it's very easy to disrupt. What Windsinger does for you is give you massive counter potential. You can play out your resources every turn, keep your counters up, gives you card advantage every time your opponent draws something, you draw something. It's more of a control game. You look at Windsinger, that's a control card, much more than, say, the Augur of Sirion is. Augur is combo, Windsinger control. That's the way I view the two cards.
Sure. I mean, the way I look at it is they're both cost 6, and you're going to invest a lot of resources into either one. And so, like, at that 6-drop slot, I can only afford having so much in that area of my deck. And so it feels a lot like I don't necessarily want to play both of them, you know?
Fair enough.
I feel like I want to make a choice between one or the other. Although this guy's running 4 6-drops in his deck, just out of those guys, the 1 Augur of Sirion and then 3 Windsingers. So you can see where his values lie. They're not that they're wrong. Perfectly fine. I think one of the other interesting things about this deck, though, is that he didn't run the Kyoto Shard in here, which I'm not sure why that is. Or maybe it just didn't record it properly, because I see 13 wild shards. Actually, you know, they probably just didn't record it properly, because I see 13 wild shards. Oh, and then there's 11 Sapphire. So, yeah, maybe he didn't run the Kyoto Shard. It seems like they would be perfectly fine in here to give you more...
how many titles does he have?
He's got... I mean, if you had 12, that should be fine. This Augur of Sirion is not one, but Brown Fox Scout is. So that's 4. Carnosaurus. Crocosaur is not. The Kyoto Howling Brave, so that's 8. Windsinger makes it 11. Indigo Dreamwalker, that's another 4, that's 15. Yeah,
that's plenty.
That's ridiculous. I mean, even then, like, I feel like people shouldn't be discounting those dual shards when they're running less than that. Like, if you're only running like 8, maybe I might run 1 or 2. Still pretty good. Most of the time, it's going to be a resource. It'll be a blank resource at the worst case scenario, which you'll be surprised. It doesn't actually come up that often.
Yeah.
Yep, keep moving through all the Crested decks. Crested, another Blood X deck. This is another 5th book with combo with Phenteo. So what are your feelings on this? Did you watch last week? We kind of had a little bit of a back and forth about this. If your opponent hasn't, like, obviously we don't have to worry about Majesty anymore, but let's say your opponent hasn't hit you with Eye of Creation yet, because that's the new hotness, and you have 5th book in hand. Do you 5th book them even if you haven't drawn Phenteo to put Tarantula Eggs in their deck? Or because I would use the 1-shot ability on 5th book to get those Eye of Creations out of their deck or other big drops or whatever.
I think it depends on what you expect to see. Matchup, I think. Ultimately, it comes down to the matchup and also how you built your deck. Some 5th book decks are control style. Some are a lot less so. I'm currently running a bit of wackiness that uses 5th book and Reggie, in which case, always run the 5th book. Try to get your thing for
Reginald.
The victory. If you're playing, say, a blood control matchup, you probably want to wait on that 5th book until you know or suspect they've run out of extinctions and you think you could get your aggression through. Maybe you get rid of 2 of their powerful cards, like take an extinction or 2 out of their deck and draw 1 egg for yourself, so you have the big 5/5 that kills them, and then start working on building advantage that way. If you're playing against aggro, absolutely pull them all out. They're not going to have an answer for you. Milk it for all it's worth. So I guess it's a contextually relevant question. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer there. But for the most part, yeah, who doesn't love gigantic tarantulas coming down on the side of the board?
Yeah. Let's move on to the next Friday update, because we talked about basically all the decks that were represented there. There are other decks out there that are competitive. They just need to get some room to breathe, so we'll hope that they get that chance tomorrow. Friday update, the stress test wrap up. Basically, they're just saying, hey, thanks everyone for coming out to the stress test. And someone just told me that we just got our rewards for that, so that's pretty good. I'm not sure why it took so long. I thought we would have already gotten those, but that's fine. It wasn't about the rewards anyways. I mean, playing in a 10-round tournament is quite enough. And then they just kind of highlight some of the different decks that we saw in there, and ones that we probably won't see again, like this, you know. They won't be exactly the same. The Crested, what do you call it? We've been saying it the whole time, the Titania's Majesty deck. And then tomorrow we've got the 5-shard Sapphire Cup, sponsored by Dragonborn, 12th and the 13th. For me, I'm in the Central Time Zone, so this starts at noon my time, but it's actually going to be starting, as far as if you do everything by Cryptozoic time, is what I like to call it, the West Coast time. It's starting at 10 o'clock. Cryptozoic time, and you'll have to confirm by 9. So you'll have to confirm an hour earlier. I will not be playing in this tournament tomorrow because I've committed to doing some extra like community service stuff for work. So I won't be there, and I kind of need a break after last week's 10-round tournament. Anyways, I'm going to try to make it out to the ESL, which will be going on Sunday night anyways, though, so we'll see if that goes. I feel a little bit better about that one as far as my time commitment, because it's like you lose, you're done, and you know, I'm very bad about being like, I'm going to play this out. I don't care how often I'm losing. I just keep playing anyways. So, are you going to be playing in that tomorrow?
I wish. No. So, I've been wanting to get more into the constructed scene. And I did actually get to stop by and play a little bit in the stress test, which is a bit unusual, to be perfectly honest. For the most part, I am busy on Saturdays because I do regular board game and sort of bringing food over to people's houses on Saturdays, and that
you
is
bring some of that food over to my house. You could always bring food over to my house. I won't stop you from doing that. Okay, and that pretty much brings us to the deck doctor. So I don't really have. I had one thing come through on my Twitter feed to try to build something around Syzygy. I'm not sure that I can. I'm not sure that I can. It says when you play an action, all cards with the same name in all zones get cost -1.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it just doesn't advance board state. I mean, it might be fun to do this in like PvE, but there's really nothing else. I mean, cost negation or like negatives on like other things, to me it just doesn't. It's like reverse ramp, and it doesn't do a lot for me. I mean, how do you feel about this card? Do you think we should try it, or?
Actually played around with this, so
yeah.
I don't know that this is the answer, but it is a. How do I put this?
Put it any way
I have
you
a
like.
deck. We've made this for the 4 keeps. So, what I would suggest to you as a starting spot is think about ways you can abuse having a deck full of stuff that costs virtually nothing.
Sure. Well, I mean, you know, obvious options are all of the escalation cards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
we use mill. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's an obvious go-to. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes we try to do fun. I guess we have to decide if we're doing a fun deck tonight or we're trying to do some sort of competitive deck tonight. And with the tournament tomorrow, I mean, I feel like we owe it to the viewers to do something that tries to be competitive. But you know, we can do a fun one too. It really doesn't matter that much.
Oh, I'm up for competitive. You know, just because it's fun doesn't mean it doesn't have to also pack a little bit of punch.
Right.
The thing about a Syzygy deck is, if it can go off, you win in 1 turn.
Sure.
The key to the deck is that Augur.
Right.
We were just talking about sort of its potential, and if you get an Augur of Sirion out and you have a well set up deck,
then
you essentially have infinite turns.
Sure.
And infinite draw. We actually ran it with Scheme, Chronic Madness, a couple of Mastery of Times.
All right. You sold me on it. All right, let's see what we can do here. Let's see if we can make this Syzygy be maybe actually like good. I feel like going into Blood. I feel like that's the choice to make here. Sapphire Blood or Diamond. Wait. Yeah, Sapphire Blood. I think that's the direction we should go. I mean, what did you do?
Ours was mono.
Sapphire.
But it did run into a very serious problem in that you didn't have a way to control the board. So I think your instinct is probably correct. The issue you're going to have is with thresholdish concerns,
right.
Making sure you meet all of your thresholds. But I don't think that's a bad idea to go into a little bit of Blood. If nothing else, it opens up Extinction, which is fairly key if you're doing any kind of control matchup. If it gets out of hand.
And you know, button. With the way things are, people might be running for Extinction again, which is kind of crazy, huh? It's crazy to think about. Oh, good times. So I feel like I really like Thunderfield Sierra in here, especially if we're running cards that are going to shuffle back into our deck. Because, you know, when it enters play, the next card gets draw a card, so that way when we draw that card and play it again, that Chronic Madness or whatever, hopefully it'll now have draw a card on it. I have seen someone that was playing the deck, 2 weeks ago, where it had the one where it resets your life to 10, and it had the other one where you just didn't take damage and went into diamond and was running Thunderfield Sierra. So I feel like that's good. If we're running counter magic in here though, I really hate running Thunderfield Elder. I love this card, but at the same time, if I'm going to run this card, I don't want to run counter magic. It just feels bad. It feels like a waste because you get double counters out of it.
Let me ask you something. When I start building a deck, I like to ask myself, what is this deck supposed to do?
Sure.
So what is our win condition? Are we going to be playing Life Siphon? Is that sort of the direction we want to go? Are we going to try and Chronic Madness them and do sort of a draw until we get to our win conditions, in which case we're looking at maybe Chronic Madness and what's that other one? I'm blanking on the blood escalation name now, which is terrible.
Oh, you're talking about Relentless Corruption.
Relentless Corruption, yes, thank you. Relentless Corruption, these might be viable. I mean, can you imagine Relentless Corruption that's free? How nasty would that be if you can keep drawing them and copying them and stuff? To make a Syzygy deck work, we will need draw. I mean, that's the meat of it. So I think threats for winning, what it's supposed to do, and then Syzygy, and then we sort of build the scaffolding around it.
I think we still play Withering Touch and what's it called in here though. Now those cards seem better in this type of a deck compared to counter magic because I can double those cards and feel better about them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. Counter has the advantage in that you can stop something when it really matters. You know,
you can be responsive. You can threaten it when you have open resources. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree. If you do want to run doubling up effects, then staying away from too many counters might be a good way to go. And especially if you end up with extinctions and other sort of reset buttons, as I like to call them. They will allow you to let some things through your net. It doesn't matter. You don't have to keep everything off.
Oh yeah.
If you can just wipe the boards clean.
So put the princess in here for now and the king. Now I'm not sure that we even really want too many vampires in here. Honestly, we probably don't. I do really like having the what we were just talking about, that what's it called, the 1/3 that was the spider.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I mean, I just throw as much stuff in, and then we start, and then I start whittling it down and start asking really like what are we trying to do, like you were saying before, and then what does that, what doesn't do that type of thing.
Then let's heap it on. We will need card draw, so ask yourself what card draw options you would want to run. Pact is possible, but if you're trying to abuse Syzygy, what you often want are things like Oracle Song or Epiphany, maybe Zodiac Divination. These kinds of cards really benefit.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't play Pact in this. Yeah, I think you're spot on that one. But Exarch, I like Exarch here quite a bit, so we'll see if we can keep him or not. Yeah, and that's another interesting thing. Like, you have your mentor of the song, which doesn't go in here at all. Like, someone that plays this is probably wrong to play that over Oracle Song when we're trying to run Syzygy in here. We want to run as many actions as possible. So, of course, there's the classic Zodiac Divination. At least one of those, probably. What else? We run the Augur, like a 2 of Augur.
2 or 3 of. I mean, I really think Augur makes the deck. I had 2 of them in the initial variant that we ended up running on the 4 keeps. I think going as high as 3. But again, you know, it depends on what your win condition is. If your win condition is play all of the things in your deck and do a sort of an infinite I'm milling you out / stealing your cards for card advantage, milling you out, win through those kind of shenanigans, right? Then yes, you put probably 3. If you aren't, 2 is generous. Yeah, a 2 would be good.
Trying to look at all the actions: basic action, quick action, because that's how I feel like we have a decent amount of other things in here. There was that other action where it it discarded cards and put spiders in their deck. I kind of like that one too in here, maybe as a one of. Rotcast, of course, is seeing a lot of play right now too. Excellent card to have around.
Yeah, it's quite strong, and this is ultimately why we ended up going single threshold, though. It's you have a lot of double thresholds in both directions.
In blood,
which becomes
yeah,
a little bit awkward.
What champion? What champion did you go with?
Rotcast is very powerful. We actually went with the Meditating Fox, whose name I can't remember because nobody ever runs it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
It creates a Oracle Song and puts it in your hand. Now it's 7 charges, which is expensive, but it had the huge benefit of being able to kill somebody. You have a draw card, and you can force them to draw when they have 0 cards left, and thus it gets around spiders, or calamities, or silly things like that. You can also use it to make other things in your deck if you're already running Oracle Song cheaper, if you hadn't drawn one already.
Arachnophobia, that's the one where it puts spider eggs in their deck and makes them discard. Arcane Focus.
It's very useful, but hand destruction is an archetype you tend to want to either focus on or not. You can put a little bit in. I think Withering Touch is perhaps one of the best splashable hand destruction options. Arachnophobia is pretty heavy. You're committing your 3 drops to getting rid of your opponent's stuff, and it's not even targeted. It's anything that is targeted, you have to focus on keeping their hand as empty as possible.
But discard 2 cards for 3. I mean, that's a lot of cards for that cost. You know what I'm saying? Like usually, I would think that would cost 4 or even 5 to do something like that. It almost seems like that would be the typical thing. Like here's a Misfortune, for instance, and it does 2 and discard 2 for 5. Yeah, like that I feel is more like balanced than.
And destruction is mean.
It is mean
in Hex.
Especially because there's nothing where it's like if you do discard it, like they just get it back anyways. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, there's a difference between Misfortune and Arachnophobia, in that one is common and one is uncommon, and so
sure
they have different balance ratios within a limited set. But once you get to Constructed, all bets are off. I'm just going to fill up my deck with all of the hand destruction, and then
I mean, of course, hand destruction is not that great against the what's it called deck, the Tusker deck, but because usually they're just going to play stuff, and then like, so you got rid of a couple of my 1/1s. Okay, I just draw and play anyways. So let's see. Then we get shards. So we've got quite a few cards to get rid of here. I need to get my, let's just say Sapphire Shard. And we need to get this. Shard of Cunning is definitely going in as a 4 of. That's that definitely is a must.
Your fixing is going to be rough.
Yeah, I'm trying to justify playing the spider one. Maybe as a 1 of, it wouldn't be too bad in here.
So when we get to the refining process,
I mean, we have to figure out. We have to make sure. Yeah, we have enough spiders to support it, and so it's one of those things.
All of my thoughts on the matter, but the biggest issue that I have is we seem to be pushing into troop territory, and what makes this kind of deck work, at least in the previous iterations that I've tested, you may be able to splash Syzygy in other forms, and so I'm not by any means trying to argue that this is the only variant that is successful, but we have tested this somewhat. The advantage of Syzygy is that it makes the stuff in your deck cost virtually nothing. That only works if you're playing actions, and lots of actions that you either make more of or continually get put back into your deck. So whether or not you're using Scheme or you're using escalation cards, these are the backbone. So the more troops you put in, they essentially clog your deck. Now you need some content to keep control of the board, but I worry that too many of those are going to you're going to lose your purity of purpose,
right?
And the deck isn't going to function as well as it might otherwise in if you had narrowed your scope of what you intend the deck to do.
No bounce actions. Yeah, we could probably put that in here as well. I'm just trying to figure out what champion we want to run. I looked at the spider one. I mean, yeah, he's fun, sure. I mean, you could try it. I mean, when we're discarding so much stuff, yeah, I mean, that could be relevant, I guess. I mean, if we are playing discard.
Does anybody know what happens when you madness a spider from somebody's deck? Do they get the spider?
No, you get it.
Even if it enters into your hand?
It's probably for each. I'm pretty sure it doesn't enter into your hand. It'll because the cards are going in the graveyard. In fact, the spider doesn't count against them. So, like, if you madness a spider out and it's discard 4 cards, you're still going to hit 4 of their cards. And then
Sorry,
the spider.
I'm again messing up the name. Not Chronic Madness, the other one. Corruption. Relentless Corruption.
Relentless Corruption?
If you Relentless Corruption, and you take a spider from the top.
And it goes in your hand. That's a good question. I would have to check that. I have no idea. I probably won't play Corruption anyways, just because it's so slow.
Corruption gives your opponent the spider. Oh.
I feel like Corruption is a control matchup card anyways. That's more reserves these days. I love the card, but it's not fast enough to be relevant, you know, because like
that's exactly what I'm arguing. Syzygy allows that to be fast enough. You know, just like Madness is only fast if you compound the mill. If you're going to go dual shard, both blood and sapphire, instead of just mono sapphire, which is the variant that I've been running just because it's more consistent in terms of your threshold. I hate having to fight with my threshold. I just want to argue strongly for considering that option, because not only does it give you card advantage, but it also mills, and so you're getting a 2-for-1 out of a single card.
So I'm actually considering Nin the Shadow right now. I think that actually is the choice to make here. For spiders, and then maybe just go into heavy spiders, you know.
Yeah, it's doable.
Where we just, yeah, like you said, like we're probably going to get rid of most of these troops, honestly. But like one of the things I think is kind of neat is what happens if we get rid of all the troops? Can we still have troops in the deck? Yes, we can, and have it play off an action with Arachnophobia, because we get to put Spiderling Eggs in the deck. Now, there's only 2.
A number of Thunderfields. The Thunderfield sequence. We didn't have no troops in the deck by any means. We had Renlock. We had the Thunderfield Sierra and the Thunderfield Elders. Anything that gave us extra draw, gave our actions extra utility, these were included.
What's the bounce spell called? It's I always forget what it's called. It costs 2. Time Ripple. Now some people are running the new one as well because it reduces their attack values. And I think that one's also viable. The new one, the time Throwback, yeah. I mean, between the two, which one do you like better, Throwback or Time Ripple?
I prefer Time Ripple for a number of reasons. First off, the increased cost is often much more devastating early game. Second, I think that the ability to target things that aren't troops is incredibly relevant. Throwback only allows you to target troops. Not so with Time Ripple. It can be anything, and that can be night and day, all the difference. I would see Throwback as being more viable if you build a deck that intends to put your own stuff back, and you're just returning stuff to your hand for extra come into play effects or extra inspire or whatever. Then I might consider Throwback more heavily. But in a vacuum, if you're just doing a sort of a control matchup, Time Ripple's the way I would go.
So yeah, I'm looking at what we've got here, and I don't think we can run the Silk right now. We have 1 spider, 2 spiders, so 8 spiders. If I run both Exarch and Xin'xith Inquisitor, then I could run like one of these Xin'xith Silk effectively. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, okay, so let's let's think about this a little bit. If Syzygy is the core of the deck, right? You intend to use Syzygy, but you also want to do something with spiders.
20.
You might have a viable option. I mean, there are a number of pretty good spider-friendly cards. Things like, I mean, again, you'd want to get rid of Relentless Corruption in that case, but you have Lunacy, you have Incubate, you have, I think, a number of...
Right, cards that generate spiders that go into your opponent's deck, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it's worth considering, right? I mean,
Sure.
I don't know that it'll be top-tier competitive, but you have some options. Heck, you could put in some Phenteos if you want.
Oh yeah, we completely forgot about that.
And you know, the advantage of Phenteo is that it's a compounding threat. The longer it stays on the board, the more your opponent has to worry.
I like Vampire Princess because it gives us actions, but at the same time, those actions aren't really being affected because we aren't shuffling them back into our deck. They're not really affected by Syzygy, or are they? They are affected by Syzygy. They are
affected by Syzygy as long as you already have them in your hand or in your deck. They aren't affected by Syzygy if they're created afterwards.
So we need to put Vampire Kisses in here if we're going to play her. Kiss. So like maybe 2 of them for now, and we'll take a look at it. So maybe get rid of the Vampire Kings, remove them to the reserves for now.
That might be an idea, yeah. I mean, it's such a powerful card. It's, you know, you always want.
Yeah, you kind of want to have Vampire Kings.
So much value out of it.
You paid for the Vampire King. You got to use the Vampire King. You know, I mean, come on.
Exactly.
So maybe that makes Silk much more playable with that many spiders in the deck. So we can have that kind of consistency. And if we already met our double threshold on both, we can throw more spiders in our opponent's deck, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it is Venom, so you do need specifically Venom allegiance, and I guess Exarch. What else Venom would you include in the deck?
So I think I want to get rid of Thunderfield Sierra just so I can run counters. I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe get 2. Maybe to get down to 2. Maybe 2 of those. The time ripples maybe down to 2. I'm starting to cut down things.
Mm-hmm.
Zodiac Divination is a little expensive. Maybe cut down our top end a bit. Take the Divination out. Go down to 1. Augur of Sirion.
Do you have a way to view your overall curve? I'm sorry. I'm not.
Yeah, it's at the very top. Yeah, at the very top. It's got it. It's got it right here. And we've got a ton of cards in here, of course, but
yeah.
And I have to look at how many resources we've got. We've got 4, 8, plus 16. That's 24 shards right now. So the shards are. I'll take. Well, no, I'll leave it at 24, so that we can figure this out. So we said we liked. What's it called? Not Throwback, but we liked Time Ripple more than Throwback. And yeah, I understand it delays things quite a bit, but you know, Throwback could also save you a lot of damage too sometimes. But I do think that yeah, Time Ripple probably overall is better. A lot of times because if your opponent gets stifled on resources, it can just basically lock out their board state.
I think Throwback is much more relevant in a limited setting where you have a very strong, like for example, let's say Runeweb Infiltrator became like meta defining, or even you know, Exarch of the Egg. You can expect to see these very troublesome one attack troops all the time. Then I would see Throwback being a very important include in your deck, or at least your sideboard, because it deals with those kind of cards. But compare a situation where you're playing against, I don't know, Vampire Blood Control, or you're playing against an Aquash Rush. Throwback doesn't do very much for you, whereas Time Ripple has the advantage of buying you at least 1 turn, more often than not 2 or 3 turns, as they struggle to get the resources to replay that troop that all of a sudden is 2 extra cost. So it's just the tempo gain is so much higher in most cases.
So we got rid of 20 cards. That's a lot of cards right now. we've got 5 minutes to do it. I don't know if we can do this.
Oh dear. I think we're trying to build like 3 different decks in one spot.
Deck. Yeah, you're right.
You got a spider deck, you got a blood control deck, and you've got a Syzygy deck, all fighting for
dominance.
Time.
And which one will get the? Let's pull Archmage. I'm gonna pull Augur, even though he goes crazy. I think we're just kind of building this like discard.
If you're gonna pull the Augur, you might as well pull the Syzygy out, because what does it gain you, right? The Syzygy makes everything inexpensive, which then allows you to abuse card draw.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're removing your engine for card draw, which Augur is one of them, your oracles are one of them, then you might want to rethink your overall victory condition for the deck.
What are we doing here? It's like, what are we doing? I'm starting to feel like getting rid of Chronic Madness.
If you have spiders in the deck, getting rid of Chronic Madness is you should just completely remove it. Because if you Chronic Madness a spider, the spider goes to your opponent because it enters your hand as voided, and then your opponent gets the spider. So anytime you run spiders, Chronic Madness, not Chronic Madness, Relentless Corruption is not included in the deck. I'm sorry, I'm looking at it and saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, I'm going really fast, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, no, Relentless Corruption should be removed if there's spiders in the deck. The worst possible thing you can imagine is using Phenteo, putting Tarantula Eggs into your opponent's deck, and then trying to Corruption it off the top.
Corruption it out. And of course, everyone's using Fifth Book is like the typical thing people are using right now to do that functionality, which seems more efficient.
Well, yeah, not to mention, if you're going Madness, Chronic Madness, you're really going for the mill victory for the most part. Now, just taking a couple cards off the top of the deck, you might as well put in Eternal Drifter if you're looking to mill, because it's a 5/5 body and you don't have to devote quite as much real estate. It impacts the board and also gives you that mill that you want whenever you play a Threshold. It's just so much more consistent.
Alright, I'm moving these Relentlesses to the reserves. Oops. Yeah. Gotta do this. We gotta do it. We have to make decisions. It's tough, I know. I have to do it. I'm feeling like getting rid of a lot of the double threshold stuff too.
At this point, I might sacrifice. If you want a functioning deck in a couple of minutes, sacrifice the Sapphire. Go mono blood. Unless you think you're gaining something from.
Well, then we get rid of Syzygy. Then that was the whole point.
Well. Yeah, but if you're focusing on Syzygy, then you need to make sure you have your card draw engine, and you need to make sure you have some way to abuse it. How much card draw do we have in here?
Not too much. Not too much. We got the two Oracle. We have two Oracle Song, and we have two Oracle Song, and then I'm still playing 4 Thunderfield Seers to buff the actions. But we have no way of shuffling those actions back into the deck, so it feels bad to play that Seer now.
You would need more Oracle Songs. You would need an Epiphany, maybe some Zodiacs. Because what this does, you play a Syzygy, right? You play your Oracle Song. All of a sudden, your Oracle Song goes, especially if you have 1 or 2 Syzygys out, it goes down to a 1 cost. Now you can draw a bunch of cards, which when you play them, start ratcheting down their cost, and so. It becomes a crazy draw cycle where your draws cost nothing, the stuff you're playing costs nothing. You can essentially go through your deck as much as you like until you find your win condition. That's the benefit. That's, you get all of your planets in alignment, and boom, 1 shot, 1 kill, your opponent falls over. It's very satisfying when you can get it to work. The problem is you have
getting it to
very
work.
carefully craft your deck to support that kind of an action, and then make sure you're not disrupted in the process. I like the addition of all the control, but you start focusing on efficient troops like Vampire Princess. It's an awesome troop.
I just like that she gets me that action that, you know,
Yeah.
we can do something with. So
That's fair. That's fair.
that seems to be good enough to, you know, to be worth it to me.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm getting there. I'm getting closer to 62.
Oh yeah, that's not
And the
bad.
curve is pretty bad, but oh man, we might have to continue this next week.
Maybe.
I think this might be a to be continued. Take that Augur back down to 1. Yeah, because we only need 1 of him. Because he's what we're trying to draw to go crazy. The murder's down. I feel like I need murder. Maybe down on the Extinction. Because people are saying, yeah, Extinction isn't... It's not as good as it once was. Plus we can draw to it. Oh, we actually went under our card count there for a minute.
I might include more draw, because you know,
Yeah, I
in terms
think
of the
so.
amount of draw engine you have, they're sort of one and dones. So a couple more Oracle songs, or do you still have the Thunderfield Sears?
No, I
in
pulled
there?
all the Thunderfields because they are.
Okay.
Yeah, because the shards were playing, and it just felt like it was just too much, too many dudes and not enough actions, and it was
I would
like they were
consider
good.
this-
Like I like Thunderfield Sears when they buff cards, and then I can shuffle them back into my deck and then do them again. That's what I
Yeah,
like about
yeah.
them. And
Oh,
this doesn't do
absolutely.
that. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, Winter Moon really benefits from something like Thunderfield Sear.
Yeah.
Here, you're almost better off playing a Pact, honestly.
Yeah.
But I mean, Oracle songs still do the trick. I would put in at least 4, maybe. Well, you only have so much space in the deck, so fill it in with draw. Maybe call it a day.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened here. I mean, we could also play the turn 1 draw card where it looks at 2.
Oh yes,
You could
very
play that.
solid.
Yeah, we could play that as well. I forget what it's called though. We got to end the episode. We're already Arcane. All right, I think what we might do is I might finish this deck off and then post it to the show notes so we can finish things out. But yeah, it needs a lot of work. I mean, something
Arcane
like
Focus.
this.
There we go.
Yeah, Arcane Focus. Yeah, I think we do have to play a playset of both of those with this. Do we need the Inquisition? Do we want to just play Withering Touch? I feel like I just want to play more Withering Touch instead.
I would remove Inquisition, play the Withering Touch, because you have your delete buttons, you have your murders, you have your extinctions. They serve the same purpose.
Our 2-point range sucks right now, but yeah. I'm gonna take down my Inquisitors by 2. Maybe take down the Princess by 1. Because she's not a spider. Vampiric Kiss by 1. Maybe just call it a day here. So I'm gonna do some more work on this, probably offline. But we need to close out the episode here because we're already over budgeted on time.
My apologies.
No, it's not you. It's a tough deck. This was a tough one to without actually like thinking about it beforehand, to just kind of like bust out of nowhere. But it's a good challenge. I always like a good challenge, although that website is less than good. Anyways, his name is Dinotropia. He came on the show, showed us about the magic of Syzygy tonight on Decking with the Squire. We also went over some news. We've got the 5 Shards tournament, Cup tournament tomorrow. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to get out to that. It's a free tournament that the 5 Shards people are putting on that you can win real prizes in. We talked about the banning of Majesty tonight and how that's going to shape the meta and allow some other, you know, stomped on flower decks to actually breathe and actually do some things. Don't play this deck tomorrow. It's not a good deck, but do play some of the other ones. This deck needs a lot of work, so I'm going to probably do some more offline work on it. And Dinotropia, do you have a sign off, and then go ahead and replug your YouTube channel for everyone so they know your YouTube and then your Twitch, so everyone knows where to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. As you can tell, I like to push wackier, sillier decks. So if that is your jam, come check me out. You can check me out at Twitch. .tv, I think it is, twitch.com/Dinotropia. You can also find me at YouTube. Dinotropia Hex is my handle there. So youtube.com/Dinotropia Hex, and yeah, you can check out a little bit of that Mad Alchemy.
Yeah, make sure to get over there if you aren't already following him. So yeah, and of course, as always, support all the Hex streamers, Hex community that's out there, and enjoy the weekend. And until next time, it's Darren Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families. Try not to rage too much out there.